Bonjour, everyone. Hi, this is Neshi Lokotz. Welcome to Star Nations Organization's main fan page right here at Facebook, where I do a daily live stream, or nearly every day, a live stream around the divination cards that I've drawn in the morning. It really is more like a spiritual conversation, or a conversation about spirit. Either way is good, right? So today is Saturday, January 26th. And I have to tell you, it is cold here. When I got up this morning, it was minus 23 without the wind chill. Oh my God, that is so cold. Our high today is like 5 degrees above zero. Yeah, this is Wisconsin weather. It's cold, man. It is really, really cold. And so, it reminds us here that it is winter, and we certainly know how to dress for winter up here in Wisconsin. We do. We all pretty much have really warm boots and jackets and hats and gloves and, all of that good stuff. And as you look outside, it doesn't look that cold out until you step out the door, and it's pretty cold. So before we get rolling, I'm going to like and share the broadcast, the live stream. And if you could do that as well, I really would appreciate it, so that people can find us a little bit easier, right? And there we are. I see us. And then I'm going to share it to my news feed. My news feed. There we go. Just to make sure my friends know that I'm live streaming. And then to please join. There we go. Good. That's good. It's so easy. So easy. Just takes a moment. Let's see who's in the chat. Let's see. Rochelle is here. Hello, Rochelle. She says, hello, Nishi. It's cold. Yes, it is. No argument there. And we have Lake Michigan in between us, and yet it's cold by you too. Yeah. Rochelle, it's warm here with 11 degrees. Tropical heat wave. And thank you so much, Rochelle, for sharing. Appreciate it. Hey, Julie's here too. Julie Chamoy Hill. It's always good to have you here, Julie. So good to see you in the chat. Yeah. It's we'll see how well Facebook, or the internet, I should say, is going. The last few days, it's been kind of wonky. I missed you guys yesterday. I did. I was meeting with my bookkeeper for Star Nations, and it's only good. She's a good friend of mine. We've been friends since third grade, I think. I think it was third. Maybe it was second. No, third grade. Third grade. Yeah. And she comes up. She actually drives up here to do the books, which is really a gift to me, because I can't make it down to her. It's only an hour away, but with my mom and trying to get everything situated, it's just so much easier for her to come up here. And so she did, and we spent the day doing bookkeeping, laughing, telling stories, that kind of thing. Yeah, a whole day of bookkeeping. It's like, she loves this stuff, and she's really good at it. Me, I could find a million other things to do I'd rather do than to sit down and do the bookkeeping, and it showed. So, and she's a really good organizer too. And so, organizing, she gives me this 3-ring binder for everything, and got it all nice and organized. We have one more meeting to do, and the books will be done for 2018. And so we poised for to file the taxes, right? Yeah. So, doing that kind of work is not my favorite, because it's really a lot of left brain work. But according to Marley, it's also some right brain, because it's about creativity on her end on how to do something better, or inventing a new way of arranging the binders or something, you know. So for her, it's a loads of fun. Thank goodness, because if she wasn't fun, it would have been real work yesterday. So anyway, like I said, I missed you guys, but I had to take the opportunity. She had a cancellation, and she said, you know, I can move our meeting up to do your books, and so I took it, and we did pretty good. And she gets along really well with Mom because, you know, Mom's known her since she was a little girl, and so Marley and she visited for a little bit, and Paul gets along with her really well too, and George, oh my goodness. And Marley is an animal, loves animals. She has dogs and cats, and George just loved her. Practically took her down to the ground. He did, trying to get at her. And yeah, that 6-month-old puppy energy is pretty big, you know, especially at 55 pounds. So yeah, so I missed you guys though. There was a point where I was Stephanie was sending me some stuff, and I had my phone out, and I was answering Stephanie, and Marley kept clearing her throat. And I said, "What?" And she says, "Put the phone down and step away from it." And she says, "You pick it up one more time to do other work, and I'm going to turn country music on." Because we were listening to 70s music, right? Yeah. Needless to say, I put the phone down. Oh my gosh. Julie is saying they're getting snow down by her, which is about an hour south of me. Yeah, it's kind of light, really, really light snow up here. I mean, you really have to really look at it to see it coming down. Yeah, it's pretty dang cold for it to be snowing. Stephanie says the new logo looks great. Yeah, we did some redesign. And you guys will notice that a little bit, and a couple of other things, especially around the magazine. We freshened things up a bit, and went, of course, a little bit lighter with the blue. Traded the black for the blue. Kind of reminds me of the Black and Blue Road. Hey, the light bulb just went on about that. Very interesting. Yeah, but I do too. Stephanie. I like it too. Okay, and Rochelle is saying missed you. Like the new logo. Thank you. And yeah, Stephanie, thank you so much. She's posting about the magazine and where to get it and that kind of thing. Thank you for posting that. And you know, and technically, we've been working on the February issue since January 7th or 8th, because the contributing writers, they start writing their articles that early, some of them, and they get their articles to their editors. And I know that Sharon is working this weekend and part of last week on getting the edits done for some of the writers, and talking to them about their articles and getting those situated. And some articles have already come in, so this afternoon, that's what I'll be working on, is getting those prepped to get to be laid out. And so we spend quite a few weeks, actually, getting each monthly issue prepared and for publishing. Talk about creativity, right? Yesterday, I would have rather been doing that than sitting with all of the receipts and printouts and that kind of thing. So anyway, I did miss you guys too. Julie said something about us Dell's girls and that George just loves. Yes, he has a lot of aunties, that's for sure. And George really loved Julie as well. I think Julie, he did practically the same thing to Marley too. She sat down. They were kind of playing, right? And so she sits down in one of the dining room chairs, and the next thing I know, I look over my shoulder because she's just laughing so hard. And she goes, "I don't think you're supposed to be doing this, but I like it." And he was practically in her lap on this chair by the dining room table. And yeah, They both got in trouble for that. and George practically did the same thing to Julie too. 70s country? I don't know. She was threatening me with the more traditional country music, the stuff my dad used to listen to, like Conway Twitty and I'm trying to think of somebody else. The kind of more the twangy and yeah. She knows exactly. Well, we've known each other for a long time, so she knows, right? She knows. Good afternoon, Deborah Clark Clemens, because she's saying, good afternoon, Yvette Neshi Lokotz. It's good to have you here, Deborah. Hey, I am so glad that you joined the Academy closed group, too. I saw that. Julie Shumway Hill is our newest member to the Star Nations executive team. She is the Star Nations Academy manager. She's going to be helping me get the foundation under the Academy a little bit more solidified, and also to start growing it, right? And so I just mentioned Deborah has been a part of Star Nations community for quite some time, but I see that she just joined the closed group for the Academy, and so Julie is part of her work with Star Nations is to really take care of that closed group, the Academy, and of course all kinds of other stuff for in-person classes here at Star Nations Academy, where I am broadcasting from. And so can't wait. I sent her a whole bunch of stuff too that Marley didn't know that I was working on sending yesterday. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And Deborah is saying, me too, about joining the Academy. And Rob says, the stuff I grew up with, all that country music. Yeah. Conway Twitty is the only one that went into my head. Maybe the early days of I'm trying to think of a couple other names. Roy Clark. Loretta Lynn. Maybe even earlier than that, because she was just starting her career maybe. But my dad used to listen to country music all the time. It was like walk in the house and it's like, oh man, not that stuff. Too funny. And Deborah saying, I'm a bit slow. I just finally saw an invite the other day. Excited. Oh, good. I'm glad. We've been doing the free mini classes at the closed group for the Academy. I don't know, for about a year now. Maybe not quite. I've done a few. And Polly Jo joined to do a free class, and Julie just finished one. And I'm thinking about asking Orchun and Carl maybe if they wouldn't mind doing a free class as well. But it depends on what you guys are looking for too. That's right, Rochelle. Hank Williams. That's it. And Rob is saying, I grew up with my dad's Horner and Jethro records. Oh, well, like I said, Dad would start playing it on the stereo and walk in the house, and I'd turn around and walk out. But back then, it was only AM radio. I'm talking pre-FM radio. So anything before 1973. Yeah, because in Wisconsin Dells, where I grew up, WNNO radio station, that's all they played was country music. Yeah, it's the only thing you got on the radio. I remember Saturday nights in the summertime coming home from work from Stand Rock. It'd be late, it'd be like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, something like that. And that would be the best time to get WLS out of Chicago. And so we got to get like maybe 10 minutes of WLS, right? Yeah, rock. Oh my goodness. All right, let's get started with the cards. That's what you guys came for, right? All right, so here we go. The very first card that came this morning is this one. High Priestess. We've had her a few times this past couple of weeks. High Priestess. And we really took a look at her the other day, because you have the Merkaba, or the star tetrahedron, up at the top there. It's about ascension, the ascension vehicle, balancing male and female energies. It's about a unified field. A unified field. Oh. And this is another one of those headdresses I really like. I like her headdress. Of course, she's wearing very large earrings, about clairaudience. And black cat representing the goddess of Bast. And the cat is protecting the high priestess from lower vibrational energies. And notice he has an earring too. Isn't that cool? And over on the side there, that is a little, not a lily. Help me out, guys. I just had one of those moments. I know this word, this plant, but it, the feet likes wet, really wet. And lotus blossom, that's it, lotus. I knew it would come. And so that's also on there. And she has some tattooing on her arm, symbols. High Priestess. Harness mystic power. Harness mystic power. Yeah. I love it, you guys. Everybody's telling me lotus now. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Do you ever have that? The word is like right there and then it's gone. Dang it. I know it. I knew it would come. I would just have to give it a little time. Yeah. So harness mystic power. And she's talking about your own mystic power, because we all have it. We all have it. It just depends on whether or not we turn our attention to it. Yeah. Yeah. The high priestess, she represents the goddess, obviously, and she represents that part of the goddess that is very strong, almost the mother of the maiden mother crone, right? And she also represents the divine feminine. And I believe Kyle, the author of the deck of cards, describes it as embodying the divine feminine. Let me show you the book, the cover for the cards that we're using. Angels and Ancestors Oracle Deck by Kyle Gray. And also the illustrator, the artist, is Lily Moses. So yeah, I've really come to really like this deck a lot. And we've received almost every card in the deck. I think there's one or two that we haven't. But the High Priestess, it's very, she's been around a few times for us. And whenever a card comes multiple times, I believe that, and I agree with a lot of other people who do divination readings and that sort of thing, that they say that Spirit is really trying to get our attention with that particular essence of that card. And so with the High Priestess coming around to visit a few times in the last couple of weeks, she really, really wants us to recognize and harness our mystical power, right? Because when we can do that, that's called mastery. When we can do that, we're well on our way to our higher consciousness and spending most of our time in either the fourth or fifth dimension. Yeah. And so with Kyle, he says that the message is align with the light and focus on all things positive. Align with the light and focus on all things positive. And for me, aligning with the light is, of course, aligning with the Creator, right? But it also is about aligning with your higher self, your soul. Yeah. You know, and we can feel it when we're not quite in alignment, can't we? We can feel it when we're not balanced, when we're not grounded, when we go to connect with our spiritual team, our guides and our teachers and our angels and our power animals and our higher self. Sometimes we find it difficult. And the thing is that we're always connected to them. Always. It's when we can't focus on them, when our focus is taken elsewhere, right? And in some ways, depending on where you're at, that's called bending the energy. Bending the energy. For instance, if you've ever been in a spiritual class, right, and you have a spiritual teacher and you guys we're going over, I don't know, sacred geometry or angels, or we're sitting usually in circle, right? Usually, and the teacher loses the students' focus because the students are focusing maybe on one of their another student, possibly, right? And so that's called bending the energy. Bending the energy, because the flow of energy in the class, when it's going around the circle, is flowing, your attention is on the teacher. But as soon as something or someone else does something or says something and brings your focus over to them and not the teacher, that's called bending the energy. Yeah. And sometimes it's done unconsciously, maybe subconsciously. Yeah. And to be able to recognize that is when our attention gets pulled away. Yeah, Paul calls that with the golden retriever, squirrel, leaf, that we can't, it doesn't, whatever we're focusing on doesn't hold our focus. And so that's called bending the energy, is when your focus is taken off from your intention. Yeah. And so we each of us have our own mystical power. But when we're not grounded, when we spend more time in negative energy or lower vibrational energy, it's hard to align with the light when we're immersed in lower vibrational energy. And that's one of the reasons why I believe Kyle writes, align with the light and focus on all things positive. Because when we focus on the positive, we're in a higher vibration. We're in a higher vibration. When we focus on, for instance, love rather than fear, right? We're in a higher vibration. Yeah. Let's see what everybody's saying in the chat, because there's a lot of messages coming in. Hold on, let me scroll down. All right. And we're back to Rob. He's talking about that country music. He said, unbeknownst to Dad, Russian classical masters traveled to Nashville to study mandolin under Jethro Burns. I didn't know that. Classical masters for the Russian mandolin. That's interesting. Yep, there we go. Lotus, thank you. And Rob is saying the cat is also protecting her from leaves, pens, and bugs. Probably. And Rochelle says, my memory has been that way. Middle of a sentence, I have no idea what I was talking about. Well, I'm not quite that bad. But I lose words, and some of that, quite honestly, I'm sure that there's a physical something, the medical world would say about that, menopause, right? But really, some of that is also a part of ascension symptoms. Because when you spend a lot of time in in a higher vibrational dimension, even though you're in your physical body. Some words, you just lose some of the verbiage, because you're in a place that uses more imagery than words, right? Yeah, that's part of the reason. Not the whole reason. I'm sure some of it is menopause. Oh, that must be Julie. Okay. Julie Hedges. Julie Hedges is coming in as Star Nations Magazine Radio Network and Publishing. Good day, everyone. I liked and shared to the Tarot Journey page. Thank you, Julie. Thank you for doing that. Appreciate it. Hey, Michelle's here too. Michelle Moonen. Good to have you here, Michelle. Good to have you here. So glad you could join us. And Julie Hedges seemed to be posting as the SN page. Yep. I know that happens sometimes. And Violet is saying, hi, Neshi. Hi, Violet. Good to have you here, joining me on a Saturday afternoon. And Rochelle says, I'm also 10 years older, way past menopause. All right. So maybe, I don't know. It could be, especially these days for you, Rochelle, it could be the pain medication that you're taking. And also it's the anesthesia. For every hour, the rule of thumb, for every hour that we're under anesthesia, that's 1 month of recuperation, and for that anesthesia to leave our body. Yeah. My brother, one of my brothers, had multiple surgeries. This was 3 or 4 years ago. And so he was under the first time he was under for quite a long time. And they were telling the doctors and the respiratory people were telling him that rule of thumb, 1 month for every hour that you're under anesthesia, and it does something to our short-term memory. So anyway, he did Chinese medicine to help flush his system from the anesthesia after he was all done with all those surgeries. Yeah. And oh my goodness, Kimberly's here too. Lovely to be watching. Lovely to have you here, Kimberly. It's always good to have you in the chat. And Rochelle says yes to, the remembering of the memory when you're on painkillers, right? Yeah, medication. Yeah. Did you know, talk about memory stuff. Did you know that Wisconsin, I don't know if we still are, but we used to be like the #1 growers of medicinal ginseng. Yeah. In north central Wisconsin. I don't know where we're at these days, but back in the early 2000s, we were the #1 grower of medicinal Chinese ginseng in the United States. Yeah, there's a stretch of highway. It's called $1 Million Mile. Because you can see it. You can see the trellises. And what it is that they have to shade on the plants. And so you have all of these kind of arbor-like structures through that part of Wisconsin. And so, yeah, dairy state, cranberries, and ginseng. Yeah, I used to have a coworker who would said that she needed to take ginseng for her memory, but she'd forget. She'd forget to take it. Yeah, double-edged sword there, right? Okay, so let's finish up with High Priestess. For those people who just joined us, this is the first card that came this morning, High Priestess, and it is to harness your mystical power. And the author of the cards, Kyle Gray, says that you are a mystic with the capacity to connect with energies that go beyond the human senses. There's an opportunity for you to rise up at this time, but it requires dedication and discipline. If you're unable to figure out what you need or what the information is that's coming in, you must use your intuition and discernment to focus on What will bring you closer to your goal and happiness of everyone involved? It's also important for you to check in with your intuition, as it will give you guidance that will be important for your growth. And so basically it's about connecting with your higher self, right? Yeah, because that at a soul level, we have a lot more information available to us than we do through our mental mind. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't need our mental mind or it's not important. It is. But what's important is when we have the balance between our head and our heart, between our mental mind and our emotions, that we are experiencing life through our high heart then. And access to our intuition, to our higher self we have much more of it. And when we realize that, our self-confidence goes up. Yeah. And I can tell you one thing is that when you are in a lower vibrational field, it's harder to consciously connect to your spiritual team. Not that they aren't there, they're there. It's just that it's harder to hear them. It's more of a challenge to get the information to come through. Yeah. And so, it's to help yourself is to be in a more positive energy field, right? So if you have the emotion of fear, even if it's just a little bit, right, is to really turn your attention to it and ask, what is this? Why do I feel this? What's going on here? How do I change this? And really it's about facing it. It's about facing that fear and healing whatever it is, and then releasing the fear and replacing it with a higher vibrational emotion, such as love, right? Or joy. Joy is even higher than love. Yeah. 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 And Julie Hedges is saying, oh, the HP and her, High Priestess and the Cat Companion both have an earring. Yes, they do. We were just talking about that clairaudience, right? Or maybe that's her other self, Cat, doing her sacred work. Yeah, it could be. Kyle puts it this way. He says that she is joined by a black cat representing the Egyptian goddess Bast, who protects her from lower energies, and she stands strong in her glory and power. Yeah. But it's a familiar, right? It's a familiar. For those who have the belief system of Wicca or pagan, and having, we talk about power animals, right? In their belief system, they believe in familiars, right? And it's the same thing. It's just a different word for that. And having that four-legged or the feathered one, right? Or, their familiar is in the physical world with them rather than in the spirit. Yeah. All right. And Rob is saying that explains the never-ending barrage of negativity. Well, yeah. And it really, if we turn our attention to that negativity, not to dwell in it, but to understand what's it doing here? Is there something I have to do about it? Am I healing something? Am I releasing something to remove, to be in a more higher energy field than the lower vibrational one? See, a lot of people, what they would do is they would ignore it. And, and do the more positive mantras and that sort of thing. And it does work to a certain extent. to really move out of the fear is to face it, and to heal it and release it, rather than to ignore it. Because the only thing we're doing when we're ignoring it is it builds in intensity until we actually take the opportunity to take a look at it. Yeah. And we talked about our thoughts the other day, right? Is to change your perspective and how we catch ourselves, how we can disrupt that negative loop that sometimes plays in our head, is to disrupt it and either to flip it into a more of a positive, delete it, flip it to a more positive, and then also to check in and with your higher self and say, what is this? What is this really about? How do I step out of that lower vibrational field, right? And when we do that facing of the fear, that's soul growth. That means that we're learning a life lesson, gaining some wisdom. Yeah. So facing it is actually a much better thing for our soul. And Rob is saying the kitty cat's protecting everybody. Yes. Yes, it is. All right. And hey, Anne's here. Hi, Anne. Minnie's there too. Hey, Minnie, Sister Minnie. Good to have you guys with me this afternoon. So glad you could be here. It's always nice to have you guys there. So Anne and Minnie are sisters, and it looks like they're having a sister weekend, a visit. That's good stuff. Yeah. And you guys picked a good weekend because you stay indoors, right? Because it's so flipping cold. I don't know what it's like by you guys, but it's really cold here. All right, let's go to the second card. Here's the second card. Trader. Trader. Not the other kind of traitor, but trader with a D. Yeah. And it says, exchange energy to create abundance. Exchange energy to create abundance. Yeah. There's a lot going on in this picture too. He doesn't have any earrings on though. But if you notice, he's using his right hand, and he's got it over his heart chakra. Vibrant color, rich, abundant. Yeah. Trader. The merchant class, right? The merchant class, which was actually what we call the middle class. The merchant class, the traders. And you know what? Those traders back in the day, right? They were the ones who kind of brought the news from community to community, almost like a bard would, almost like a storyteller who would travel from community to community, right? And so they would pass along information, maybe from one family member to another that lived in a different, the next village over. Yeah, the traders would do the same thing. They would carry information from one place to another. And talk about, choosing what kind of information you're going to be passing along and how you're going to do that. Consciously aware of if you want to be in a higher energy field or a lower one, right? The lower one would be called gossip. Yeah, don't want to go there. Rob says from them came Islam. And that is actually true. They're the ones who spread the word. Just as much as how Christianity spread too. It was those individuals who would travel from community to community and carrying the message, right? Trader. Yeah. Let's see. Let's see what Kyle has to say, because when you take a look at these two cards separately, you think, wow, what could those two have to do to support? Because the second card always supports the first, right? And so how do these two cards, their essence, give us the information that's important for us to know about today? What does that happen? How do they go together? And so the trader is the exchange of energy to create abundance. And the message is make connections and exchange information, talents, and support. The trader brings the lesson and energy of exchange. The energy of exchange. The energy of exchange. The universe operates under the law of cause and effect and is always looking to return to a natural state of balance. And so we have the cause and effect, that the balance of giving and receiving, right? And so in comes the sign of infinity. That is the balance of sending and receiving, giving and receiving. And so it's a constant motion. And when we create our own blocks with it, how do we create those? Sometimes it does have fear involved, the fear of scarcity and lack. Certainly can interrupt that balance of giving and receiving. And in our day and age, in our vernacular, right, we talk about hoarding. Talking about clutter. But you can hoard all kinds of things, not just physical things. You can hoard your gifts. You could not share your gift or apply your gift. You could hide it, right? And not share your abilities to, I don't know, whatever your gifts are, whether your spiritual gifts, or maybe it's your gift in the physical world. But when we don't use them and we don't share them, that disrupts the balance of giving and receiving. Yeah. But technically, I think that, just my 2 cents, right, is that fear does that more often than hoarding. Well, actually, I suppose at the bottom of hoarding is also fear, though, isn't it? And like I said, it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, you could hoard something in the physical. You can hoard something in the unseen, as in your gifts, your spirituality, your emotions, and even your mental mind. If you're really good at being an inventor, and you're withholding that from being shared, right? Yeah. And so we have the opportunity to be able to share. And it doesn't always have to be based in money, that monetary exchange. It can be, but it doesn't always have to be. He says that if you've been holding back with your offerings, now is the time to change that. Allow yourself to be open, honest, and vulnerable. This can prepare you to open up to even greater opportunities in the coming days, weeks, and months. And so when we share ourselves, literally, with others, right? Sharing your gifts. Let's see. Yeah, Rob is saying Muhammad himself was a trader. Trader in goods. Kimberly saying, very interesting. As I've been doing energy exchange with some spiritual friends, this seems to be amplifying abundance. Yeah, because you're opening the door for it, right? You're welcoming it in. So, You know, there's this old saying. My mom used to say this to us, that when you hold on to something really, really tight, and you got it in your hand, right? And you're holding on to it, and you don't want to let it go. You don't want to share it because you think little kids do this sometimes. They'll grab onto something, a toy or whatever, and they don't want to share it, right? Is that that tight grip that you have on it, eventually you have to let it go because your muscles aren't going to like being in that position for very long, right? And so it takes a lot of energy to hold on to something, your gifts, without using them. So when your hand finally opens and you allow it to the energy to flow, you have the opportunity to have an abundance coming to you, in hopefully in that balance of giving and receiving, right? Deborah is saying, often in my life I've been told to not share my thoughts or intuition, that people would think I'm nuts. I have learned I need to know who I share with and what to share. Yeah. Yeah. I have to agree, Deborah. Sometimes, especially when it's our intuition, and we haven't been asked to give a reading for somebody, or haven't been asked, do you think you could help me with, because, I get calls all the time from people. Could you help me understand this? I really want to know this better, right? But if I just walked up to them and just started telling them, this is what I see for you, that's really trespassing. It's trespassing into someone else's energy because we haven't been asked. And so I think that there is a boundary. I'll call it that Deborah, that we can use our own intuition for a lot of different things, but when it comes to sharing it with other people, I agree with you, is to learn how to discern who to share it with and when, and I'm going to say where. Because some places it's not appropriate to share it because maybe it's too public. There's an old saying, there's too many ears in the cornfield. Did you ever hear that one? Too many ears in the cornfield. And so, sometimes you really have to, especially if you're sharing it with somebody that is a really private person, they really don't want to have that conversation in the middle of a grocery store or a restaurant, right? Yeah. And the timing sometimes, so it's discerning. And that's something that we've learned along the way, is discerning really means that we're connecting to our higher self. Our soul self, our higher self, is the one that is doing the discerning and giving us the message, our conscious self. So we're actually a whole being, right? That when we're in connection with or contact with our higher self and have that kind of communication, that's what discerning is. It's not our mental mind, because I tell you what, our mental mind can sure make stuff up, can it? It's two-legged. That is the one part of us that can really spin out of control. And so when we discern, we're really connecting to our higher self. It's a soul discerning. Yeah. And Deborah's agreeing. Yep. Hey, Lynn Marie. Lynn Marie's here. She says, there's a reason I listened today, Neshi. Will help me help my grandkids to share. What an insight. Thanks for you and your mom's wisdom. Well, you're welcome. You're welcome. When growing up, I didn't know my parents were poor. We always had a roof over our heads. We always had food on the table. We always had electricity. We always had running water. But I didn't realize that they lived check to check, and sometimes even less than that, until I was much older, right? Like a teenager. And so sharing became really paramount because they didn't have enough of the money to get each one of us something. So when we didn't get soda very often, and when we did, we split a bottle of pop between the three of us. One of my older brothers, Pete, and my younger brother, Robert, and myself, right? Because the two older brothers were already out of the house and doing their own thing. But we even had to share a bottle of pop because it was expensive, number one, and we didn't get it all the time. And so it was always a treat. And we never complained that we had to share it. Honestly, it never crossed my mind. I don't know about my brothers, but it never crossed my mind. And so, the juice glass full of soda. And so, yeah, sharing in that way was just second nature. And if somebody needed something, and if we could do it, that's what we did. That's what we did. So, oh gosh, okay. I'm gonna look at the time here. Okay, here's a personal story about sharing. Balance of giving and receiving, right? I was quite young. I want to say maybe 9 or 10 years old, something like that. It was early in the morning. I remember at night, just before going to sleep, one of my brothers was playing a certain song. Now, if I can remember the title of it, that doesn't really matter. But the song was on, and I always hooked that song up with this memory. And there was a community near where we lived, a Native American community where we lived, and it was in the summertime, and there was a house fire. A young woman, was supposed to be babysitting her little cousins. They were like 5, under the age of 10. I want to say a couple of them were like toddler and baby. Okay, and there was a house fire, and they couldn't save the kids, and so all 5 children died in that house fire. It rocked the community, right? And they lost their house, and they had to have funerals for these 5 little beings, these 5 children, and so they lost their house, they lost all their belongings, right? What did my mom do? My mom, who knew the mom of these 5 kids, had given this lady her brand new pair of shoes. My mom had just bought herself a pair of shoes, which she hardly ever did. And she ended up giving them to this lady so that she would have something decent to wear for the funeral. And that always sticks in my mind. Always sticks in my mind. It was a very sad time in the community to have these 5 little children gone, but watching my mom and what she did with that, right? She was going to give her a dress, but somebody else came with the dress, and so my mom said, "Well, I have a pair of shoes. They wore the same size," and so she gave her brand new pair of shoes. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but for my parents, that was to purchase a pair of shoes like that. Wasn't done every day, wasn't done every year. And so, so that meant a lot. The balance of giving and receiving, because what my mom got in return from that was a lot more than what the shoes were. She got in return a person who trusted my mom, and that lady would be at our house quite often, sitting and talking to my mom, my mom helping her through that young mother's grief, right? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And Rochelle is asking, how is your mom? She's doing okay. The weather is what's hard on her body, because with it this cold, she's in a lot of pain. It hurts. It hurts. And so, so we spend time with oils, and we spend time with arnica, and we spend time with Asper cream and that kind of thing. And so, but she's okay. She's doing all right. Not the best, but as she says, I'm still here. This afternoon, what is she doing? She is looking through her books about the Green Pharmacy, I think, was one of them I saw her reading, and another one because she wants to get she's getting tired of eating the same stuff, and so she wanted to know what we could substitute for some of the things that we make for her arthritis. Yeah. So that's her project this afternoon. So she keeps busy, that's for sure. And for those people who don't know, my mom lives with me, with Paul and I, and she's 99. She's going to be celebrating her 100th birthday in June. So that's one of the reasons why Rochelle is asking. And Lynn Marie, thank you for sharing. You're welcome. You're welcome. So, it doesn't, in the sharing and the giving and receiving doesn't necessarily mean it has to be monetary, but it's sharing our gifts. It's sharing our gifts. And I think that's how these two cards go together, right? Is that in the sharing of the gifts, and our gifts can be our intuition. It can be our mystical power. For those people who do those Reiki shares, that's a prime example, I think. That's a prime example of the balance of giving and receiving. Yeah. And so harness your mystic power and the exchange of energy to create abundance. And I'm going to add in here is that in order to harness our mystic power, we also have to do our internal work, right? Our personal healing and facing those fears. Because fear is the lowest vibration. And if you're trying to remove yourself from a low vibration and putting yourself into a higher vibration, you want to step out of the fear. You want to step out of your fear. Yeah. Yeah, Violet, yep. Mm-hmm. Yes, she is. I put it in just about everything I cook. She won't take it like as a pill in the pill form. And what we found out, and I don't know if you guys know the same thing, but with turmeric, it's for our body to really absorb it. It has to be heated. And like with a carrier, and eaten like with a carrier oil, like coconut oil or ghee or something like that. And so yes, I put it in just about everything I cook. And so, and she knows that we're looking at different recipes and that kind of thing, or at least she is, because I told her I really don't have time. I said, if you find something that you'd like me to fix, just let me know and I'll give it a shot. So, yeah, and it gives her something to do, on a long afternoon in the wintertime. It gives her something to do, to research. And she's doing it the old-fashioned way. She's not using Google. She's actually reading a book, a resource book. And Julie says, looking at the sacred geometry behind you, I started wondering if there are any teachers or books you would recommend to learn more. Yes. One of my teachers, Drunvalo Melchizedek, there are two books that I would recommend. I think it's volume 2 is the one that has the most sacred geometry in it. But it's The Flower of Life I think those are down at the house. The ancient something of the flower of life. Drunvalo Melchizedek, volumes 1 and 2. I think they're still in print. There's a lot of information in those two. I started out with volume 1, and then eventually went to volume 2. Yeah. And so that's where I would start. And Nasser. Oh, he's on Facebook. And I've seen a couple of his things too. Nasser Harriman. I think that's how you pronounce it. And there's Greg Braden. Fractal Energy is a good one, by Greg Braden. Yeah, those are really good ones. And we'll see if I can get the correct spelling and pronunciation of Nasser's name. And Rob is saying, like vinegar and put it on sausages. Well, she'd do the sausages. She's a carnivore. Not a lot, but she does like to have animal protein. You know, she did try apple vinegar. That was supposed to be helpful. She tried it for a while and really didn't like it, so we had to switch to something else. Yeah. And try Blue Emu. It's a cream, good for everything. I use it on my shoulder. Well, you know, Marley just gave her something with arnica in it, a new cream. I can't remember the name of it though. She just got it yesterday. And so I asked her to please test it on a small patch of skin someplace that, not on directly on where she's aching, because I want to see how she's going to react to it on her skin, because her skin is very sensitive. She never had sensitive skin. But with age, we certainly have faced that many, many times in the last 7 years. So, Rob, it's called mustard. She likes mustard, loves mustard, loves it. Spicier, the better. And Lynn Marie, so you got the book for Christmas, The Ancient Secret of Flower of Life. Yep, that's the one. There's actually 2, volume 1 and volume 2. Yeah. Thank you for that, Lynn Marie. And what a great gift, right? All right, so we're at the top of the hour, actually over it. So anything that you resonated with the information today, with these cards, right? And anything that we shared in the chat, you know, if it resonated with you, my suggestion is to embrace it, pick it up, embrace it. Watch how the energy unfolds around you today and where this information is helpful, whether it's you're directly involved or as a witness, right? Yeah, either one's good. If it didn't resonate with you, don't worry about it. Wasn't for you, you can just let it lie. No problems. You're not going to hurt anybody's feelings at all, because there's always tomorrow, right? The information might resonate with you tomorrow. You just never know. Yeah, and so we're working on, meaning Stephanie and I, are working on getting the next week's live stream shows promoted for you, and so you can see what's coming up. Here we go. So we have, kicking it off, because it's the last week of February, my goodness. And so first up is on Tuesday, January 29th, is Polly Jola Bay Show, Chakra Sessions, and she is talking about the energy layers of the heart. That sounds interesting, doesn't it? Her show is on at noon Eastern on Tuesday. And then Tuesday night is my weekly show, Communications from Home. And we're going to be doing the Unity Breath Meditation. I do this guided meditation for you guys the last Tuesday of every month. And so it's the Unity Breath Meditation. It's all about love. Talk about shifting the energy field around you to a higher vibration. This will do it, this meditation. And then on Wednesday is Soul Connections at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Eastern time. And that's with Polly Jola Bay. It's an evening of healing and divine messages, right? Did I tell you what time my show is? My show is on at 8 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday. And Thursday, yay! It's Elder Day here at Star Nations. Our elders have their live stream shows on the last Thursday of every month, and so Connie Sheer Vaughter kicks it off on Thursday morning. That's the January 31st, with her show, Spiritual Mysteries of Life. And the title of her show this month is Spirit's Choice. Spirit's Choice. So isn't that intriguing? I want to find out what that means. And so I get to produce her show. I'll be sitting in the front row that day. And so her show is on at 10:30 Eastern time on Thursday. And then Thursday night is the Mystery School. And the Mystery School is with Ortrud and Carl Franklin, and that's on at 8 p.m. Eastern. And we're going to be talking about Carl's new book, Earth's Ascension, Nibiru and the Spiritual Realm. It's the name of his book. And so we're going to be talking about that on their show on Thursday. I can't wait. It's a good book if you haven't read it yet. All right. So enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and I'll see you back here tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern for the daily live stream and the card information and our spiritual conversation, right? So Bama Mina, until we see each other again. I love you guys.